When I was a sophomore, um, the Homestead High School inducted Steve Wozniak into the Hall of Fame. And so he came, we had an assembly and he came and spoke, and he had all of us stand up and do a Pledge of Allegiance to Apple computers.
Carolyn, it's so nice to see you again. Thank you for being here with us today.
It's good to be here.
For those who may not know you yet, can you share a little bit about who you are, what your role is, and what drew you to this type of work?
My name's Carolyn Scholl. I was adopted from Korea. So I was raised in Northern California. I grew up in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley. So very much during the rise of the computer age. My father was he was a NASA engineer, and so we had the first Fat Mac in our house. I went to the high school that I went to. It's the same high school as Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. So very much indoctrinated into the whole Apple culture. When I was a sophomore, the Homestead High School inducted Steve Wozniak into the Hall of Fame.
Oh,
And
cool.
so he came, we had an assembly and he came and spoke, and he had all of us stand up and do a Pledge of Allegiance to Apple computers. I started my career in Head Start and family literacy programs, but my degree was in business administration. And so I always was looking for ways to get onto the business side of the school district. And so that's how I kind of morphed into school facilities. I worked in the facilities planning manager for the Chula Vista Elementary School District for about 13 years. And then I've been a consultant ever since.
What is a fun or surprising fact about you that people don't usually expect from a school facilities leader?
I started my career in Head Start, and I worked as a Head Start director for American Indian programs. So I worked on reservations. Started out working for the Fairbanks Native Association in Fairbanks, Alaska, working with Alaska Native population,
Yeah.
and just I did that for many years before working for a school district.
So, what was your favorite part about Alaska?
I what I miss the most, I think, is well, the community. The Fairbanks
Yeah.
community it's a
Uh-huh.
college town, very small. There were 75,000 people in the borough and about
Yeah.
45,000 people in the city of Fairbanks. So it's very much everyone knows everyone, or you know
Mhm.
somebody who knows someone,
Yeah.
2 or 3
Yeah.
degrees of separation from anybody in Fairbanks.
Yeah.
So, so the
Okay.
community, but also actually the seasons, there's a cycle to it, an annual cycle where you lose daylight
Mhm.
till, December 21st. And then you start gaining daylight until June 21st. And there's just that whole cyclical rhythm that I do kind of miss.
So, if you weren't working in school facilities, what career do you think you would be in right now?
Well, as I mentioned, I started out with Head Start and I went to work for the school district. Initially, I was working as a family literacy programs manager, so
Mhm.
working with students and families. Um, so I think I would still be doing something with children, families, communities,
Mhm.
in education.
That's something I feel like I'm hearing across the board at school leaders, which I think is so neat, is everyone has spoken to the bigger picture, families and the people that they're working with and the community that they're in. It's something that I'm hearing mirrored in all of these interviews. So it must really be something important and at the heart of everyone working at school leaders.
Well, I think most of us, maybe all of us, have come from school districts, having careers in
Yeah.
school districts. I think we all gravitated to that
Mhm.
because somehow it's kind of baked in that,
Yeah.
just the wanting to do something that is fulfilling
Mhm.
and not just making widgets and,
Mhm.
but actually impacting students and families and these communities for good.
Yeah. So then what was your first job ever?
When I was 15, I worked for a bookstore that doesn't exist anymore called
Okay.
Kohl's, um,
Yeah.
in our local mall, which was really fun. It was, working around books and love
Yeah.
books. So
Yeah. What is a student story that has shaped your leadership style or your perspective from your work?
I can't really think of a individual
Mhm.
story, but
Yeah.
just collectively, the work that I did with children and families in Head Start and uh, the um, the family literacy programs,
Mhm.
really just the seeing the impact of the work that I was doing and my team was doing on these children, their families, and their communities was just really inspiring. And my experience with working with them gave me a perspective on their needs and how those needs are best met and what kind of approaches and mindset kind of it takes to really be effective in working with people.
How have you embedded facility design into these student outcomes? So you're seeing these outcomes from programs like family literacy. How are you able to kind of mirror that and mash that with facility design?
So I think that like well, from my experience in facilities
Mhm.
planning, it really starts with your educational specifications, which
Mhm.
I think don't get enough attention. I think that they're underutilized. There's sort of, a box that you check off. You do your ed specs so that you can get it approved by the board and for a project and submit it to OPSC. But but really the educational specifications are the the design interpretation of how instruction is delivered, how students are learning. So the design for those learning spaces need to reflect the delivery of instruction, which in turn reflects how students best learn. And so I think that really puts students at the center of the design. Um, as opposed to this is how schools are designed. They have an NPR, they have an admin, they have classroom spaces, and this is kind of how they're best situated on the campus. Um, but really trying to inform those decisions by, we do project-based learning. We need a lot of, outdoor spaces, not just space outdoors, but
Mhm.
space that supports the curriculum that we've adopted. How do children best learn in a rectangle classroom with rows of desks and a chalkboard at the front of the classroom? Probably not.
Mhm. Mhm.
But there's so much, and really getting that information from the people that work directly with the children, the students, the staff and faculty, and getting having a way of eliciting that information from them in such a way that it can inform how we are um, designing learning spaces.
Yeah. What is your favorite outside of the box design that you've seen or done?
Well, um, I I've really become interested in the outdoor learning spaces,
Mhm.
um, and how the exterior design is as important as the interior design of a
Mhm.
school facility. Um, and so amphitheater type settings, or it could be as simple as um, having um, benches and things strategically located, in areas where students can work in small groups, and outdoor furniture, from furniture to landscaping, so embedding the curriculum into the landscape is really
Yeah.
interesting to me.
Did that come after or before your work in facilities?
After,
Oh, okay. I was wondering if, because I would imagine that that actually would be a very important part of that work as well, having a space that you
very,
felt like you could decompress in and relax and feel safe, heal and
it was a challenge. The women's shelter that I was involved with had the sort of the emergency shelter
Mhm.
facility, but they also had a small um, facility with, I think it had eight like little apartment units,
Mhm.
that was sort of a transition, from
Yeah.
women could transition from the shelter to one of these units. And it was secure like the shelter was. The
Mhm.
location was was unknown. It had security, the security cameras, and they had the same rules. The perpetrators were not allowed to know where it
Mhm.
was. They weren't allowed to be physically at the facility. But yeah, those the facilities were uh always in a challenge,
Mhm.
keeping it secure. The worst thing, right, would be to be trying to escape a situation like that and go to a facility that is not well heated, not well maintained, is, just
Mhm.
in itself can be depressing, right? So having a facility that is, has natural light and is clean, well maintained,
Mhm.
it feels good to be in.
Is there something in facilities planning that you wish more people understood?
I think the complexity, um, eh, working in school facilities planning, we have a myriad of public agencies to navigate, approvals, public contract code to navigate,
Yeah.
and construction in the private sector just doesn't have to consider. And add to that the responsibility of designing and constructing school facilities that are going to impact students, families, and communities for decades to come. So it's very much not you know, put it together and then kind of it's good enough.
How do you do that? How do you build for the future like that? I mean, of course, there's no way we can know what it will be, but are there things that you start thinking about and contemplating to kind of future proof these designs?
Well, yeah, I mean, we can't read the future, but we
Mhm.
do know um what the trends are, right?
Yeah.
For like AI, started talking about AI however many years ago, 10 years ago. Um,
Hmm.
AI takes a lot of computing power. It takes a lot of network bandwidth. So if that's something that's up and coming and you're designing a school, um, maybe you don't need all of that right now, but you can build the infrastructure
Yeah.
into the school so that 10 years down the line,
Mhm.
they don't have to retroactively retrofit
Yeah.
school facilities to
Mhm.
handle, whatever's coming up next. And I think, learning from the past
Mhm.
informs the future. We've learned a lot in the last 40, 50 years about how students learn
Yeah.
and develop, and how the factory model just isn't
Mhm.
conducive for most
Yeah.
kids,
Yeah.
to learn in. And just learn. I was listening to an educational neurologist speak
Oh.
about how elementary school children, if they have their choice, they like to be on their stomach, on their elbows, and being on their elbows. The elbows are a pressure point, and there's a neurological connection
Oh,
between their
interesting.
elbows. They're leaning on their elbows and learning.
Oh,
So
that is
we
so
know these things
interesting.
now. We've
Yeah.
learned,
Mhm.
so having kindergartners sitting in a desk is not conducive
Isn't
to their
conducive. It's not
learning.
the best way. Yeah. That is
Yeah.
so interesting. Wow.
So designing our spaces and the furniture, fixtures and equipment that we plan for learning spaces, also has
Yeah.
to change. Right.
Yeah. How do you handle working with architects and general contractors while keeping a district's vision at the center of what you do?
I think it starts with selection.
Mhm.
So getting the right people, the right architects, the right construction managers, the right contractors and consultants working on your project.
Mhm.
So I think it's really important to take time with the request for qualifications, request for proposals process. It's really the district's opportunity to establish the specific qualifications that are important to the district. I think
Mhm.
sometimes it's again like educational specifications. It's OPSC wants it, so you do this thing, and you check off the box. So you grab an RFQ from some other district or something and just sort of conform it. If you use it properly, it's really your opportunity to say, these are the qualifications that I want. I'm in the desert. It gets to be 110 degrees out here. I need an
Mhm.
architect that is used to designing for heat. When I started out as a facilities planning manager, like I did what a lot of managers do. I just followed kind of what other districts did, and they say, do a 20-minute presentation, and then we have some questions. And
Mhm.
after doing a few interviews that way, I decided I was pretty tired of listening to contractors and architects regurgitating what they submitted in their SOQ. I always thought, like, okay, we already know you're pretty. Show us how pretty you are. So I
Mhm.
started really structuring the interviews for what I wanted to find out, what the information
Yeah.
that I needed. So
Mhm.
taking some time to think about a little more deeply about, what do you want to see? What's going to help you make your decision about which architect's going to be best to work with your district?
Mhm.
And so I started structuring the interviews much more specifically. I would give them a scenario and a task and give us a presentation about that. Um, and then I also was interested in learning more about how they worked. How do you work
Yeah.
together? How do you work as a
Mhm.
team? Do you work as a team?
Mhm.
So the first question after the presentation was, okay, so you've designed this expansion, and now DSA has come back with $350,000 of ADA upgrades, and the district has lost about 50% of its funding for this project. So I would give them 10 minutes to
Mhm.
talk amongst themselves and come back with what they would recommend, what their recommendations would be to the district.
Mhm.
And I wasn't so interested in the recommendations as
Mhm.
I was observing their process.
Mhm.
So some
Mhm.
of the architects had the principal just answer right away, just answer the question. Um, some of the architects did take the 10 minutes and talk talk to their team. And so I was looking for, are they making use of every member of their team? Is there just a couple of them that are talking?
Yeah. Yeah.
So really maximizing that process to put your best team together, I think
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
a good foundation for ensuring that the things that are important to your district and your community are respected and
Mhm.
sort of developed
Yes.
by
Yeah.
the
Do you
team.
hear our needs and will you respect our needs? Yeah. Okay. So I have a quick five for you. What is your go-to coffee order?
Dark roast brewed
Mhm.
coffee with sugar-free vanilla syrup and steamed soy.
What is your favorite leadership book or podcast?
I don't think I have one. Um, I learned a lot from the people that I observed around me, the leaders that I worked with. I actually learned a lot from my experience on the board of the women's shelter about leadership really starting from a position of support. Obviously as a leader, provide direction, but
Mhm.
I I look at it as like a play, and your actors are your frontline workers, right? They're the public
Right.
face. They're doing the work that people
Mhm.
see and are people impacted by. Um, as a leader, you make sure that they have the funding that they need, the props that they need, everything that they need to do their job, that they know where their marks are on stage, where they're
Yep.
supposed to go, what and when, um,
Mhm.
and just support them to give the best performance.
What is the best school lunch item?
I am old school pizza.
Yes. Did you have the square ones, those weird square ones?
That's the one I think of. And I don't know, it was it has like this little sausages on it, like
Yeah.
sausage and
Uh-huh.
pepperoni and
Yep, I remember those. Those are amazing.